Greetings from the House of David. I'm Alistair Paramal, and it's my joy to release this first teaching. The purpose of this channel will be primarily for the dissemination of doctrine, but we may at times deviate to address current issues, but that will be more an auxiliary function and based on the leading of the Spirit. I've chosen to start today by focusing on a topic that I believe is fundamental and even foundational in our journey towards maturity as sons of God. And so we're going to jump right into that. Our key text for today is Psalm 127 and verse 1, and it reads as follows. It says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it." Now, when it comes to interpreting Hebrew, Hebrew can be interpreted in three dimensions. The first dimension is just the literal translation of the text. The second is a concept called Hebrew Gematria. So Gematria is, let's refer to it as this alphanumeric matrix where we have the letters of the Hebrew alphabet as well as numerical values that are assigned to each of these letters. So when you look at the word, you look at the cumulative value of the numbers that are assigned to the letters that constitute the word. And that total value will give you additional insight into the meaning of the word. It also shows some interconnectedness or interrelationships between the Hebrew words. The last dimension, or the third dimension that we're going to be looking at, is a pictographic or pictorial representation of the words. So when you look at Hebrew in its original form, you really had pictures or symbols that represented the letters, and the compilation of those images or pictographs coming together would really give you insight or definition to the words in the Hebrew alphabet. We're going to focus on the first word in this text, and that word is house. It's important to note that the object under construction in Psalm 127 is the house. It says that unless the Lord builds the house, so God is building a house. Now, the Hebrew word for house is the word bayit. Okay, it's also beit. So beit or bayit, either of those two Hebrew words represents the word house here. Now, the word bayit is translated as family. Okay, family. So it says God is building a family. Now, it's important to note that God is not building an institution. He's also not building a denomination, and he's not building an organization. He's building a family. Now, if you look at the composition of a family in its rudimentary form, if we had to distill it down to its two constituent elements, we would have a progenitor, and that progenitor would be the father, and then you would have the offspring or the seed, and that would be a son. Now, we're going to come back to those, the concept of the family and its constituents in a little bit. The next word that we're going to look at is the word build. It says, unless the Lord builds. Okay, so God is building a family. Now, the word for build here is the Hebrew word Banah. Okay, it's the word Banah. And I'll show you how this word Banah just adds additional depth to the text that we're looking at. Now, I just want you to note here that God is still building. Okay, it says it's the Lord who builds. Now, people think that God has ceased working or functioning, according to Genesis 2:22, where it says that God ended the work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. But God is resting. He hasn't ceased functioning. Okay, now if you have to look at John chapter 5, verse 17, this is Jesus speaking, and he says, "My Father works hitherto, and I work." Okay, so if you look at John 14, verse 9, it says that if you've seen me, you've seen my Father. So Jesus and the Father are one. So if Jesus is working, the implication here is that God is also working. I guess what we can deduce from this is that it is the Lord who is building. Okay, and what is he building? He's building a family. So his intention is to perpetuate his family. Okay, he is the father of the family. Now, we've got some supporting text to substantiate that God is the father in this concept of family. Luke 2 verse 49, okay, this is Jesus speaking, and it's the first time that it actually refers to God as Father. And this is what Jesus says. So Mary and Joseph are heading back home after coming to the temple, and they journey 3 days, and then they realize, hey, Jesus is not with us. So they decide, okay, cool, let's go back to Jerusalem and see if we can find him. And when they find him, this is his response. "How is it that you sought me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business?" Okay, he doesn't refer to it as my God's business or my Lord's business, but he says my Father's business. Now, if we have to zone in on the word father, father is the Hebrew word ab. Okay, we have two letters in Hebrew, the word aleph and the letter beit, and bringing those two together gives us the word ab, or father. Now, if you look at it pictographically, the two symbols that were used to represent the word father was aleph, which has the symbol of the head of an ox, and the word beit, which is a symbol of house or family. So when you put them together, you get the definition of what the father is. The ox represents strength, and the symbol for the house represents family. So the father is the strength of the family. Okay, he's the strength of the family. So it's the father who is building his family. Now, the root word for ben, okay, so another Hebrew word. The root word for ben is the word banah, and banah is to build. So these two words are related. And the word ben is translated as son. Now, in Hebrew, the concept of son is defined as someone who is the builder of the family name. Okay, the purpose of the son is to propagate the heritage and the identity of his family. So he doesn't represent himself, he represents the one who sent him. Okay, and I think a good example of this in the text is when David comes to fight Goliath, and Saul doesn't say, "Who is this?" He says, "Whose son is this?" Okay, so he knows that if he knows where David comes from, if he identifies his family or his heritage, he would be able to understand the root, the lineage, the identity that is in David that he has inherited from his family. The pictograph that is used to represent the word ben, okay, it's two letters, it's beit and nun. Okay, so the symbols that represent those two letters is the seed for nun and the house or the family for beit. So when you put those together, what we're really seeing is that the purpose of the son is the seed who perpetuates life or the life of the family. So the purpose of the seed is to propagate the image and likeness of the family or the father of the family. Now we can see this as part of God's original intent in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 11 to 12. Okay, it says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself." And it goes on to say, "And the earth brought forth grass, the herb yielding seed after his kind." Okay, and then it goes on to conclude saying that, "And God saw it, and it was good." So the seed's purpose is to replicate or reproduce after its kind. So when you have the father and the father creates the seed, the purpose of the seed is to replicate the image and the likeness of the father of the family. Now another word that I want to focus on here that I think is also quite cool when it comes to understanding this concept of family and building is the Hebrew word Eben. Okay, Eben. Now Eben is also derived from the Hebrew word banah, or to build. Now, Eben is translated as the word stone, okay, stone. And the way you get the word in Hebrew for Eben, it's actually, you take the word ben, which is son, and you take another letter, aleph, or the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, you bring it together, and you get the word Eben. Okay, Eben is actually an acronym for the two words in Hebrew, av and ben. You take those two words, you put them together, and you get the word Eben, which is stone. Now, the two words that or the two constituent words of the word ben are av. Av is translated father, ben is translated son. So the word stone is actually defined as father, son. Father, son. I thought that was pretty cool when I found that out. Now, I want to focus on Psalm 118 verse 22, and this is what it says. It says, "The stone which the builders rejected or refused is become the headstone of the corner." Okay, again, it's the concept of stone. And Jesus actually quotes this in Matthew 21 verse 42 when he's speaking about himself. So he's referring to himself as the cornerstone, or the chief cornerstone. And Peter in 1 Peter 2 verse 5 also brings in this concept of stones. And this is what he says. It says, "You also as lively stones or living stones are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ." Okay, so we are being built up into a spiritual house. The purpose of a house is to be a dwelling place. Okay, and who is dwelling in this place? Okay, it's not us, because we are the house. So we are the habitation of God. God is dwelling in this house. It's his spiritual house. Now the word house there is actually the Greek word oikos, which means family. Again, family in the New Testament. So we've got, this concept represented in the Old Testament, and we've also got it recurring here in the New Testament. But Peter's just giving us, additional insight into what it is that is being built. So we take these living stones, okay? The living stones are put together and they construct a dwelling place for the Father. Okay, and this dwelling place is the family. So God is actually inhabiting the family. Now, the family is not just a physical structure. Again, it's not an institution, it's not a denomination, it's not a building, it's the family of God. Now, this family is constituted of sons. Okay, God is building sons. The sons are stones, these stones put together, and they form the spiritual construct in which God lives. We can see in Revelation chapter 14, verse 1, okay, it again just reinforces this concept. And this is what it says, okay, it says, "Then I looked, and this is what I saw. The Lamb stood on Mount Zion." Mount Zion is a picture of the church in its end state, okay, mature, without spot, without wrinkle, without blemish. We've come to maturity, to the place of exact representation. And John says, "And with him, with the Lamb, he sees 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name inscribed on their foreheads." Okay, so we've got the sons of God who've come to perfection, and on their foreheads it's inscribed Father, Son. Okay, Father, Son. Father, Son is stone. The stone is really the construct of these elements that God uses to construct his family. This family is his dwelling place that he is building so that he can inhabit, and he will use this family to perpetuate his image and his likeness in the earth. Okay, now I just want to re-emphasize here. The family is comprised of the only begotten Son. Okay, this is Jesus, who is the chief cornerstone, and the adopted sons, which is us, the church. Okay, we are the living stones, and together we comprise the construct of the family in which God dwells. Okay, so this corporate Son, together, that is the combination of Jesus, the only begotten Son, and us, the church, who are the adopted sons. Okay, coming together, we are the corporate Son. Okay, this is the habitation in which God dwells, and this is the entity to which God perpetuates his image, his likeness, his name, his identity in the earth. I hope this teaching has been a blessing to you, and I pray that grace will be multiplied in your life as you listen to it.